Hello! It's time to discuss another book while doing my makeup. And now we're officially in the month of October, so we're gonna be talking about a book with monsters in it. It's a monster romance. Let's not sugarcoat it. That's what it is. And I have a soft spot for them, okay? So we are going to be talking about this book right here, A Lady of Rooksgrave Manor. And I liked it so much and liked the cover so much that I actually bought it to put on my shelf because I just think this is really pretty, and this is one of my favorite monster romances. So before we completely just dive into this book, we gotta do step one, which is always pulling my hair back. And there we go. So if you're new here, I have my whole setup right here off screen. I have all the makeup products I'll need, and a pop-up will be for which products that I'm using as I go through it, but I'll be doing my makeup and talking about this book. So we're gonna start with some moisturizer. I use moisturizer like my primer pretty much. But what is this book about? So it's a reverse harem with 1 FMC and 5, technically 6, MMCs. And all of the male love interests are some form of monster. So our female main character is named Esther. And by the way, this whole book is set in the 1800s. But her name is Esther and she is just a regular human woman. And her various love interests include Dr. Jonathan Underwood. He's basically a human. But then you have Mr. Tanner, which is his other persona inside him. He's basically a Dr. Jekyll / Mr. Hyde character. That's him. And then you have August, who is a vampire. You have Aman, who is a sphinx. You have Booker, who is a golem. And then you have Ezra, who is an invisible man. So there's quite a bit of diversity in the different monsters, which I like. And I forgot to say it, but this book is by Catherine Moon. And so the whole premise of this book is that Rooksgrave Manor is this house that takes ladies and pairs them up with their ideal monsters. And so Esther becomes a lady of Rooksgrave Manor, and she gets paired with these various love interests whom she winds up falling for, and the story revolves around that. But that's like the whole premise of the manor and how she meets them. It was set up for her. But let's actually get into it. And we're gonna start with doing my eyeshadow. So before Esther becomes a lady of this manor, she's actually a maid at an estate. She's not a lady at all. She's a maid. But we very quickly can tell that she's quite horny. In fact, she's a nymphomaniac. And the lady of her estate often gets treated by this doctor, who we later learn is Dr. Underwood, who treats hysteria in women. Which what that means to Esther is that she overhears a lot of interesting noises whenever he visits. And because she's a nymphomaniac, she likes to overhear and have fun with that. There's a lot of adult stuff in this book, so I'm not gonna be able to go into detail of a lot of it. Also, the sun is setting, so there's probably gonna be some weird light things going on like this. Listen, we work with what we got, okay? I can't control the sun.
Well, damn, Jackie, I can't control the weather.
Anyway, that's the prologue to kind of introduce Esther as the main character and that she is one horny girl. But while she was essentially spying on them, she gets caught by the doctor. He leaves the room and he sees her kind of eavesdropping. Wow, that light is intense. What in the hell? Okay, actually give me a second because this is like too much. Okay, this is better. We're going with it. Anyway, where was I? Because this is kind of a monster romance and the book has her in a red dress and the rest of it being black, I'm kind of going to go for that sort of eyeshadow look, a lot of reds, so just trust the process. But anyway, so she gets caught. She gets caught spying, but Dr. Underwood doesn't really mind this at all. In fact, he essentially propositions her. He's like, meet me at my practice later. And of course, she says yes, because she's a nymphomaniac. So she's like, if there is an opportunity for me to have some fun, I'm taking it. So she goes and she has some fun with him. And while they're doing this, he is hitting it from the back. And while doing that, he transforms into Mr. Tanner, which is the alter ego, because remember, he's a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde character. But Esther doesn't really know what's going on because, again, he did it from the back intentionally, so she couldn't see it. But she's amazed by the sensation. You're gonna catch me working things very, very carefully this entire episode, okay? Like, I'm trying my best. They have such a good time together that he tells her about this manor and that she would fit in perfectly there. Since this is the type of stuff she loves, she could be set up with a lot of suitors, she should go there. And she's like, oh, hell yeah, take me there. So she goes to the manor where she gets to meet Magdalena, who is like the madam of the house. Like, this is her house that she runs and she does the parent gatherings with all of her girls to the appropriate monsters. And Booker is also there and greets her because Magdalena has the capability to create golems, and they're like the butlers of the house because she can control them and she made them, and that's kind of what they do. But Esther takes an interest in Booker. Nothing happens yet, but she is interested in him because he's a golem and she's not used to the monster world. She had no idea they existed before hearing about this manor. So she's interested. She wants to know. And so Magdalena kind of gives her the ground rules that, like, hey, you can't be mean to the other girls. Don't try to poach any of their gentlemen. Mind your business. Be kind. You know, like the basics. And she gets her own room in the manor because she can now just live there because this is her job and they provide room and board and all of that stuff. And she looks out the window that night and she sees one of the other girls of the house go out to like the backyard woods area where her werewolf gentleman meets her, and she spies on them having some fun because she likes to watch. She likes to watch. Magdalena works quick though, and she already has some suitors lined up. Now Dr. Underwood wants to see her again, so he is already a suitor and technically Mr. Tanner as well. But she tells her about another suitor named Aman, who is the Sphinx. And the next day, Esther is kind of exploring the grounds, getting her bearings of this new place, but she falls asleep outside like on a bench because the weather's nice. She takes a little nap. While she's dreaming, apparently Aman can communicate through dreams, and so he visits her in her dream. They begin to have some fun, but she ultimately gets woken up by a human from the neighboring village. His name is Jacob, and we don't really like him because he has weird vibes and doesn't trust the manor and is very judgy and just he has weird vibes. Weird vibes. We don't like him. Later, Magdalena also tells her that, hey, I got another suitor lined up for you and he's a vampire. She's obviously talking about August. Remember? August the vampire? Yes. But one of the other girls in the house, her name is Cassie, she also has a vampire lover. So, since Esther has never been with a vampire, she gets to talk with Cassie and know her a little bit better about, hey, what is a vampire lover like? And so she gets to know one of the girls a little bit better. So she's getting situated in her new setup. So the next night, Aman is still traveling to see her, so he's not there yet. But August shows up and they have a whole date where apparently he's a great pastry chef, and so he made her so many delicious pastries, and they kind of have a date in the kitchen where he feeds her all these delicious goodies as like a preamble to the main event, which, considering we now know what this house is known for, we know what the main event is. And Esther is absolutely down for it. Like I said, she is a nymphomaniac through and through. Anytime she can get some, she's gonna get some. So currently we're on chapter 5 in my explanation, and literally that entire chapter is just her and August having some fun. I cannot go into the details, but you know what I mean. They have lots and lots and lots of fun. And August winds up staying with her for a few nights. They both leave a very good first impression on each other. They definitely want to see each other again, but he stays for multiple nights. They go on walks together, other dates, obviously more fun. And while they're on one of their walks around the grounds of the manor, she kind of looks back at the manor and sees that a light pops on in the manor, and the light is in her room. And so she tells August, she's like, hey, that's my room. Somebody turned on the light, but like, who's in my room? So together they go there and look, because August is already protective of her. So they go there and look, but they don't find anything. They don't find anything. So since August has to leave soon, she doesn't really want to be left alone and has a little bit of an uneasy feeling, nothing crazy. But she also already just asked August permission, hey, can I be with Booker? Because she's not 100% sure how it works with the manor. Like, does Magdalena have to set her up with everybody? Can she do what she wants? Obviously, the answer is she can do what she wants. So August is like, I don't care. If you want him, go for it. Like, I'm not that territorial, and I want you to be happy, basically. But nothing actually happens between her and Booker. However, she is interested. So now August leaves. He's gone. He's left. He has business to attend to in London. I forgot to mention, this takes place in the 1800s in England. I forgot to add the England part. So August has to leave because he has business to take care of in London. Because August is a few centuries old and he got rich somehow, probably just being alive for so long. So he's got business to take care of. What business that is? I don't know. Business. Wealthy business. Don't know. And since August is now gone, her and Booker become a little bit closer. Again, nothing happens. Nothing happens, but it's clear that there is an interest on both sides to each other, you know? But at some point, she goes back to her room to rest. And so she goes in her room, she's alone, and she flops down onto the bed. But she winds up flopping on top of someone, but she doesn't see anybody. Remember Ezra as the invisible man? Yeah, he was the one that turned on her light and was sneaking around. And so she falls on top of him, which ultimately leads to them having some fun. Now, this was totally consensual. Nothing weird happened. Esther was into it. let me make that very clear. Ezra admits that he saw her taking a liking to watching the other lady and the werewolf her first night there, and he happened to see her and was really intrigued by her and wanted to get to know her more. And so he tried to go through the proper means to become a gentleman through Magdalena's house, and so he could become her suitor. But it turns out the fee to be a gentleman is atrociously high, that he could not ever afford it. So he wanted to see if he could try to meet her on his own without paying. And so technically that was a success, and Esther was into it. So it worked out for him. However, Amon, the Sphinx, winds up catching them because he arrived earlier than expected to the manor, and he shows up and he catches them, and Amon is not pleased. And Sphinx just have a lot of knowledge, I guess. I don't really know how to explain it, but they have a lot of knowledge and can see more than the average eye. And so even though Ezra is invisible to everybody else, Amon can still see him and is like, who is this strange man? And so Esther and Amon's meeting is not the best. It's not the best. It could have been better, you know? So in the aftermath, Ezra is escorted off of the property. Makes sense. He wasn't supposed to be there. He didn't pay the fee to be one of the gentlemen. He needs to leave. So he's escorted off the property. And Amon is pissed. And so he's like, this is not a good time for us to get to know each other because, you know, I'm mad. So he's like, I'm coming back tomorrow and we're gonna start fresh and it'll be okay. And so he leaves. Esther does feel guilty about this whole thing. However, she kind of feels more guilty about getting caught than she does about her actions with Ezra, because she straight up says she does not regret it. She would do that again, and she wants to be with Ezra. She's just ashamed about the way that it played out and happened. So it's now the next morning, and Sphinxes are early birds. They wake up early, they like their mornings, and so bright and early Amon shows up, and Esther greets him, and it turns into them having fun. And you know what I mean by that. But as like punishment, he edges her over and over again, kind of thing, until she can't take it anymore and she needs that release. I'm being very careful with my wording. But in the aftermath of all of that, her and Amon take some time to talk and get to know each other and, you know, all that fun stuff. And Amon doesn't exactly approve of either Booker or Ezra. He kind of sees them as beneath Esther's status, and that Esther deserves so much more and so much better that he can provide and those two can't. And Esther does not like that at all, and basically tells him as such. And it's kind of one of those things where you realize that, like, if Amon is going to stick around, he has some learning to do, which he ultimately does, but he's not there yet. So by the time that Amon actually like leaves Esther's side, because he also has business to take care of, he's like, I'm gonna find a house in London so I can be closer to you. So he's just house hunting so he can be closer to her. Yeah, he's rich too. But anyway, by the time that he leaves, it's very clear that he's like the odd one out of the bunch, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but does show that in order for her to have all of these gentlemen, they're gonna have to really get along, and Amon is gonna have to get over some things and be open to new things and learning from people, basically. But now that all of her gentlemen are gone for the time being, one of the other girls, named Mary, wants to go to town and offers the other ladies to go with her. Nobody else takes her up, so Esther is like, yeah, I haven't been to the town nearby, I'll go with you. So she goes with Mary, and that's where you kind of learn that Mary sucks. She doesn't like being there, but like, she wasn't forced to be there. She took the opportunity to be there, but she doesn't like it, but she still stays, and she's very uppity, and she just kind of sucks. And this kind of gives Esther some perspective that not all the girls see this opportunity the way that she does, because she's having the time of her life with her men. She's being satisfied in ways she never dreamed of. She's getting it all the time. This is what she's always wanted. She's having a grand time. And pretty much all the other ladies are enjoying it to some sort of extent as well. It's kind of just Mary is the first one that isn't. But it does open Esther's eyes that the other ladies are experiencing this manor differently than she is. But the next day, her gentlemen are still not with her because they're all attending to business in London. They're all just so busy attending to business. And so Esther doesn't really know what to do with herself when she's alone. She's not very good at being alone. She doesn't like being alone. She doesn't know what to do with her time. She kind of wants to explore the house, but she has this weird feeling like she's being watched. So she ultimately decides she's she's not gonna do that. She's just gonna chill in her room. But Booker has become like her personal servant, like he wants to care for her. So he dresses her that morning and he gets her off just with his fingers, but it's a start and was a pleasant surprise to Esther because she wasn't even sure if something made like he was, since he is a golem, if he was even interested in that. Turns out he is. But Magdalena wants to speak with her. So she's like, okay. She goes and speaks with her, and apparently Magdalena has this proposition for her, and it's basically like, this wouldn't be a gentleman that you would take on regularly. It's like a one-time client who is just passing through, and so they'd like to have some fun before continuing on their travels. So just a one-time thing. This wouldn't be a gentleman assigned to you, but would you like to take this contract, basically? And of course, Esther, being Esther, she's like, absolutely. The client was said to be a water demon, so she's very intrigued by what that means. Because honestly, if it were up to Esther, she would try one of everything if she could. So she accepts this contract and is eager, yet also kind of slightly, not really worried, but there's some anxiety around there because she admits that she cannot swim, and so she would be putting a lot of faith in this water demon, because where she's meeting him is apparently like underneath the manor grounds or something like that. There is this like grotto area, and so that's where she goes to meet him. And there's enough water in this area that she won't be able to like touch the bottom, and so she is a little anxious because she can't swim. And also the way that this water demon is like approaching her, it's got a very like raspy voice and is like, come into the water, come here, but isn't really like showing itself. So she's getting like a weird feeling. Booker had escorted her down there, but he wasn't like directly with her. But she's like, you know, whatever, I mean, it is a water demon, I should get in the water. And so she does, but it quickly turns not so nice. It quickly turns bad. Oh my god, my feet are falling asleep. But it quickly turns bad because the water demon is using its water abilities to its advantage and tries to drown and kidnap her. And so of course she cries out for help, but Booker is a golem made of stone. He tries to save her, but he can't swim. He's made of stone, he just sinks. So he's trying his best, but he can't get to her. But Ezra did not listen when Magdalena booted him off the property. He was like, I'm invisible, you can't see me except for that Sphinx guy. As long as he's not around, I'm sticking around because I really like Esther and I want to see her, and I'm sticking around and I'll be a little spy. And he winds up successfully saving her. He successfully saves her from this water demon because technically Ezra is also a human like Esther. However, he got cursed by a witch to be invisible, and so he kind of uses that invisibility to be a thief. That's what he is. He's a thief. But with this curse, it allows him to never get caught because that's ultimately what he wished for. So he's invisible and he can't get caught. So even though the water demon attempts to also drown him, he slips free because of that magic that's been put on him, is that he can't get caught. So he slipped right on through. And so he saves the day and saves Esther. However, from nearly drowning, she does pass out, which fair enough. So the next chapter is her waking up from that attack and essentially a debrief. So Magdalena has wards all over the house to keep the girls and the patrons safe, but somehow this guy slipped through and successfully tricked her. But it is revealed that ultimately Esther wasn't the target because the water demon didn't ask for any of the girls in particular or specifically, and Magdalena had asked a couple of the other ladies first, who had all turned down the offer. So Esther was not first choice to deal with this guy. So it is revealed that she wasn't targeted. However, it was very clear that this water demon had a master that they were answering to by the way that it was talking to Esther as it was trying to take her, referring to some sort of master. Now they don't know who, but somebody is after the house and the girls of the house. However, because of Ezra's heroics, he becomes a member of the house. In fact, August and Dr. Underwood were fighting with each other on who would cover his membership fee. And this chapter is kind of where it solidifies that she's with all 5 of them now. She wants to be with all of them and they're learning to accept it, and they all equally want to be with her. Okay, eyeshadow is done. But now let's put on some color corrector. So after the debrief, and now that Ezra is accepted, her and Ezra take a bath together. And it actually doesn't lead to any fun. Her and Ezra kind of have a heart-to-heart where he doesn't like how he had to leave her due to the confrontation with Amon, and he wanted to let her know that he's not that sort of man and he wants to be with her and there for her and wanted a tender moment. And so he washes her in the bath, and that's all it is a bath together. together. And she's still recovering from the attack, from the water demon using its water powers to try to like pull her under. Her ankle is injured, but otherwise she's ultimately okay. But it turns out that Dr. Underwood and August were friends even before this whole thing. They were friends before meeting Esther and everything, and they had made plans together to take Esther to London together. And so they ask her if she's still up for it, because obviously since the attack they don't want to force her to do anything that she doesn't want to do. But Esther says that she does want to go. She wants to go to London and see the city and kind of, you know, get away from the manor for a little bit. She wants to enjoy the time with her two gentlemen. And so all three of them go to London, where they actually go to August's house. Turns out August is very rich, so he has multiple houses, but they go to one of his townhomes in London, where she meets one of his servants named Cork, who dresses her. Cork is very efficient at what she does, but can be a bit brutal in getting it done, like being very rough when she does her hair, or like forcing her into the dress and tying the corset really tight type of stuff. But it's daytime and August is a vampire, so he is in the basement having his day rest. So it's just her and Underwood for the time being, but August had made an appointment for Esther, and it was a dress appointment. So Underwood actually takes her and she gets fitted for 6 different dresses, all very fancy. She has jewelry to go with them. She's being spoiled by her gentleman. That's what it is. That's ultimately what it is. And while her and Underwood do this, Underwood kind of reveals that they have plans to go to the theater together, all three of them, that evening. And so she's very excited, except it's then revealed that it's actually a monster theater, so it's not something she's ever been to or has ever seen. She tries to pry more information out of him, but he refuses and says that it's better to be a surprise. Just know that it's a monster theater and you will like it. And so she wants to know more, but he's not budging, so she ultimately accepts and is looking very forward to whatever this monster theater is. Turns out this monster theater is called the Company of Fiends, which I do really like that name. That is a good name, and where all of the actors are primarily monsters and all the audience members are primarily monsters, except for like their human lovers that they bring along, pretty much. The point is that it's mainly by monsters for monsters. And they even have a private box all to themselves, so they can watch the show and be comfortable doing so. And still at this point, she has no idea what to expect. But it turns out it's a 3-act show with a lot of tantalizing scenes, let's say, where all of the audience members revel in watching them unfold. I cannot go into the details of what these scenes are during these acts, but just know there's a lot of voyeurism going on. And so of course, while Esther is watching, she's getting all riled up as well, and so are her gentlemen. And they also have a bit of fun in their private box too. Not too much fun though, and you'll know why in a second. So after they finish their bit of fun, this was like the intermission between Act 1 and Act 2. So Act 1 took place, they had some fun, and now Act 2 begins, which is another very interesting show that I cannot go into the details about because this is YouTube. Yeah, but this is where they reveal what their plans are for Act 3. Turns out Act 3 is open to the audience. Anybody who wants to get up on that stage can. You just gotta sign up. And so they ask if she would want to do that. And of course, Esther says yes immediately. She says yes immediately. So their act together starts with her and Dr. Underwood on the stage, where the doctor uses some electricity tools on her. It's kind of like a demonstration to the audience on how electricity can be used for fun and kind of like an experiment, because he is a doctor who enjoys experiments, kind of not super mad scientisty, but like kinda. And so this is Esther's first time doing stuff with electricity, but she likes it. Of course she does. But after she finishes with that act with Underwood, the next part ends with her and Mr. Tanner. Now remember, that's basically Dr. Underwood's alter ego, which Mr. Tanner is this huge, hulking, beastly guy in comparison to Dr. Underwood, who just looks like a normal dude. So Mr. Tanner and her have some fun on that stage, but weirdly enough, Esther still hasn't seen Mr. Tanner. And this is because Mr. Tanner knows that he's a very beastly dude and is quite frankly ugly. He knows that, and he would never admit it, but he doesn't want Esther to see him and be like repulsed by him or something, or not want to be with him anymore. Something like that. He would never admit it, but ultimately that's why he hasn't shown himself to her. But while they're having this fun, Esther is begging to see her monster. She wants to see him while he is blaming her. And ultimately, in the heat of the moment, Tanner agrees. And so she gets to see him. And even like verbatim, her words herself in the book is that something along the lines of, if I said he wasn't ugly, I'd be lying. But this doesn't bother her at all. And she absolutely immediately accepts him for who and what he is, without question. And of course, Mr. Tanner loves that, and then their scene ends. But once it's nearing that end, it does kind of end abruptly, because while this is happening, remember they're on a stage and people are watching. Well, while this is going on, Esther looks out into the crowd and sees this guy that gives her a very weird feeling, because while the other audience members are having fun with whoever they brought with them, or having fun with themselves, like they're getting very into watching them on stage, this guy is not doing anything. He's just watching them kind of creepily, like just staring blankly at him. And he has this weird aura and vibe about him that she's like, huh? To a point enough that she kind of points him out to Mr. Tanner, basically like right after they finish. And she kind of points him out like, hey, we're being watched, but like in a weird way compared to the other patrons of this theater. And so Mr. Tanner looks and immediately recognizes this guy who he says is Bersha. And so he basically wraps up Esther in his arms and runs off the stage. And August is standing right there. Mr. Tanner tells him like, hey, I saw Bersha, and they run out and kind of get in their carriage and flee. And so of course Esther is like, who is that guy? Hello? Why did we just run from him? What is going on? And they kind of give some background about this guy. Like apparently he's this old immortal king, and he also runs various houses, kind of like Magdalena does. However, his houses are more of a free-for-all, and they center around grape. So he's just like the evil version of what Magdalena does. And he's just an all-around evil guy. Like even though she's being surrounded by monsters, this Bersha guy is an actual monster. You know what I mean? But they ultimately are like, well, he's seen Esther, but like we'll just keep a good eye on her and it'll be fine, because what does he want from her? I don't know. Who knows? Things will be okay. They kind of plan on assessing the situation and doing their best that they can, but like right now, they're just leaving. So the next morning, she actually gets to have a private moment with Dr. Underwood, because just her and the doctor haven't really been able to have some fun time alone, because it almost always ended with Mr. Tanner taking over. But it seemed that Tanner was satisfied from the events from the night prior, and so her and the doctor get to have a moment of just those two for the first time. And afterwards they have some nice moments to get to know each other, and she gets to learn more about Mr. Tanner, that apparently Dr. Underwood always had his voice in his head, and he became a doctor to study like psychology and things like that, because he knew that Tanner's voice was not his own, and it wasn't normal for his voice to be in his head like it was. It wasn't normal, especially since Tanner's voice had different interests from him and was into different things. It was just more beastly and darker than the doctor was. So what he attempted to do was force Tanner out of his mind to get rid of him. He ultimately kind of succeeded, because he did force Tanner out. However, he didn't get rid of him. That's why he's able to transform, and Tanner can take over and transform into the giant hulking beast of a man that Tanner is, and then they kind of transform back and forth. But the two of them have an understanding with each other and more or less a friendship, because Tanner lets the doctor have control of his body the majority of the time, and Tanner really only comes out when he's needed or has certain wants or whatever, but the doctor is mostly in control, when in reality Tanner is a lot stronger than Dr. Underwood and could definitely just forcibly take over and stay that way and never let the doctor out again. And so they do have this camaraderie and friendship with each other and an understanding. But that's kind of the backstory with those two. And this is where he also learns how like Tanner even knew about Bersha, because since Tanner is a very intimidating guy, Bersha took an interest in him, and Bersha likes to control powerful monsters like that. However, Tanner doesn't like being controlled, so that never really worked out, because Bersha was never able to control Tanner, because Tanner was just a lot. But that's kind of how he knows of him and why he knows Bersha is a bad guy, and his reputation and all of that goes with it. And so so the two of them continue to kind of have like a lazy morning with each other and have some fun on and off again. And then they kind of decide that they actually want to surprise August, because this is during the day, so August was having his day rest. But now it's almost nighttime, so he's gonna wake up soon. So they decide they're gonna go surprise him. Which, what does that mean in this book? That means it turns into a threesome. Whereas, yes, even the doctor and August have some action with each other. But eventually their fun has to come to an end and they go back to Rooksgrave Manor, because it's not just those two that Esther is with. Esther has 3 other gentlemen that she wants to see. And they go back to Rooksgrave Manor, where when they get there, they kind of see Magdalena as attempting to get allies with other houses now that they know that Bersha is a threat, because after they saw Bersha, they immediately sent word to Magdalena like, hey, we saw him and he saw Esther. And so Magdalena is trying to get allies with other houses who do basically the same thing that she does. And after that, there's actually a pretty sweet moment between her and August, and they take a bath together. And while they're taking this bath together, they kind of have a debrief with each other, and Esther is still trying to learn the world of monsters, so she kind of asks him, hey, like, what's the pecking order between my men? She obviously sees them as all equals, but she doesn't really understand the hierarchy of different species of monsters, so she kind of asks like, hey, what's up with that? Where she learns that since Amon is a sphinx, he's kind of like royalty. He's kind of treated like royalty, and he's at the top of the food chain of all of the other monsters. The next one in line would probably be him, August, and then third would probably be Mr. Tanner, purely from Mr. Tanner's like strength and power, basically. And then it's kind of muddled after that, where like Dr. Underwood and Ezra are kind of lumped together because they're basically just humans who are cursed, whereas Booker is at the bottom because he's made. Now obviously Esther does not like this. August admits he doesn't really like that either because he wants to be equals with all of them as well, but it's just a way for Esther to know more about the monster world. And even with this information, she doesn't change the way that she treats any of them or anything. She just wanted to know. However, she had no idea that Amon was basically royalty. She had no idea about that. Now the next morning, she gets woken up and there's this strange man on top of her, and for a second she freaks out like, oh my god, who is this guy? Turns out it's Ezra, and Magdalena was able to find a way that he didn't have to be invisible 24/7, as in if he concentrates, he can be seen. Now when he loses that concentration, he's back to being invisible again. And so once she realizes that it is Ezra, she's very excited to be able to see him, thinks that he's very handsome, and they have a nice little fun moment together. But she loves the fact that she can see him now. But after that, Amon stops by again, and her and Amon have a heart-to-heart, where at this point, she's a lot closer with the other gentleman than she is with Amon. And she basically is like, I do want to be with you, I really do like you, but you have to try with the others. You can't see like Ezra and Booker as beneath you. You have to treat them all equally and fairly, because I don't want to lose you too, but I can't prioritize you over the others. And Amon basically says that he is absolutely willing to try basically anything to keep her by his side, and Esther is really happy about that because she does want him. She actually admits to Amon that she thinks that she's falling in love with the others, but it's implied that not him because they haven't spent as much time together. However, if they do, she will have no problem in saying that she's falling in love with him as well. And so he's very encouraged by this and is like, tell me again that you'll fall in love with me. And it ends in a very romantic scene where they again have fun together. There is a lot of having fun in this book. There is so much having fun in this book. It's a lot. But after this, August is actually quite pleased that Esther basically tends to tame Amon, because he likes all of the other gentlemen and likes that they all can provide for Esther, and having Amon on their team, basically a sphinx on their team, is a great thing to have, and so he's pleased about that. And Esther asks August if she would teach him how to make some of his pastries, as she's trying to find some hobbies other than having fun with her gentleman. And so they do that with each other, but the next morning she's actually surprised because she wakes up with Booker in her bed, and they have a little bit of fun, but just like his fingers and stuff again, because for whatever reason August told Booker that he has to wait to have sex with Esther, and Esther is like, what, why? Now it's a surprise and she doesn't know yet, but she asks Booker why is he willing to listen to August, and Booker just shrugs and goes, I like August. So her gentlemen are getting along with each other and not just with her. But after she gets ready for the day, Ezra made her aware that she should go outside to try to meet him, because they kind of wanted to have a moment where he catches her off guard before they have some fun. But instead of that, she actually catches Mary having fun with, remember that human that I talked about earlier, that Jacob guy? She's having fun with him, and he's paying her for it, like a prostitution setup, which I guess is technically what they got going going on at the manor, but it's not like this. And her intermingling like this with the human that's in the village next door is kind of a big no-no. And also, like, yes, you can have fun with whoever you want with because Magdalena isn't forcing any of them to do anything they don't want to do. However, taking money from the human villager next door when they're already skeptical and judgy and weird about the manor because they don't know about monsters and stuff, that's just a big no-no. She's not supposed to do that. And Ezra is kind of working as Magdalena's spy now since he is invisible, and he promised her that he would report anything of importance that he sees. So he's ultimately like, I don't know what Magdalena's gonna do about this information, but I do have a duty to tell her that I did see this. And the chapter ends, well, let me back it up a little bit. So the manor at night kind of comes alive because that's where a lot of the gentlemen have fun with their ladies, and so you can do that in the privacy of your room. But this manor is very large, and so there's a lot of rooms that are open to if you want to have fun with your gentlemen but be in the company of others. There are different rooms that go to different bases, let's say. Like if you just want to kiss with your gentleman, there's a room for that, and if you want to go all the way, there's other rooms for all of that. So the reason that August was like, wait, Booker, don't do anything with Esther, is because they were planning to have a moment like that in one of those rooms. And so the chapter ends with her exploring one of those rooms with her gentleman. Now, not all of her gentlemen. This includes her, August, Ezra, and Booker. So 3 of her gentlemen. And then Booker gets to have his first time with her. And Mary is coincidentally in one of these rooms with her as well. Because even though she's not pleased about being there, she does have gentlemen to entertain. And so she's there with one of hers. His name is Hunter. But anytime Esther seems to look at her, she has this disgusted look on her face. She's not having fun. And the whole time she's watching Esther have fun with her 3 gentlemen and is just disgusted and appalled and watching them the whole time, which you would think would like damper the mood with Esther, but it doesn't. In fact, all she does is feel sorry for that Hunter guy and just feel so grateful that she's with her gentleman, which, hey, whatever. Esther is very comfortable with herself, and I can applaud her for that. So with such an eventful evening, Esther sleeps very soundly, and when she wakes up in the morning, she finds Booker in the room with her again, which of course, she's not displeased about that. In fact, she's very pleased. However, Booker is acting a little weird, like he's standing and has a weird stance, and she doesn't know why, but it quickly clicks because it turns out that Bersha has possessed him. Because remember, Booker is a golem and was essentially made. And at first, he was under Magdalena's like willpower and will because she created him. However, because Booker has been so drawn to Esther, Magdalena's control over him has frayed. And because of that, he's basically been a vessel that somebody can take over. And Bersha found a way to do it. And so he has possessed Booker. And in doing so, he uses Booker's body to strangle her. Now, instead of freaking out, Esther tries to comfort Booker and like tenderly put her hand on his cheek and is like, you can push him out, Booker, you can do it. And Booker ultimately does because of his connection with Esther and his own will to not want to harm her. He successfully pushes him out. However, he did do some damage. He did do some damage because he was strangling her. And Jonathan shows up, which, sorry, that's Dr. Underwood. His first name is Jonathan. But Dr. Underwood shows up just in the nick of time to see like what Booker is doing. So he walks in the room and he's like, oh my god, Booker, what are you doing? Stop. And then Booker successfully pushes Bersha out and he does stop. But this scene has rattled Dr. Underwood and Mr. Tanner so much that Mr. Tanner like forces his way out because Tanner is now mad and he kind of forcefully transforms and then like roars because he's upset. And Ezra walks into the door when this is happening and he's just like, oh my god, like what happened? What did I miss? Because it's quite a scene that he's walking into. And so in the aftermath of this, now that Booker's okay and Esther is okay, she just has a sore throat, Magdalena says that Booker needs a new tether. Since the one to her is frayed, he needs to be tethered to somebody else. And so Booker's like, I want to be tethered to Esther. And at first Esther is like, no, you need to be your own person. But Booker is like, I know you want what's best for me and all I want is to be by your side side and care for you, so it's okay. So ultimately, that's what they decide to do, is to have Booker tethered to Esther. But they don't do it yet, like not right away, because they want to keep all of the other gentlemen informed, because they are all a unit together now, you know? And so they don't want to do anything drastic until everybody's in the loop, because August is having his day rest, so he's knocked out, and Aman isn't there. So those two need to be told before they actually do this ritual. So when Aman shows up, surprisingly, he acts pretty calmly. After he had that heart-to-heart with Esther, he's kind of chilled way out and trusts a lot of the others and trusts Esther, so he reacts calmly. Obviously, he's not pleased, but he doesn't freak out or anything. And in fact, he has this like healing ointment to put on her throat, and it soothes her throat like almost immediately. Like he basically heals it. It's amazing. Now let's put on some tubing mascara. I got this tubing mascara because I've always wanted to try it, and this one, which is the Tarte one, it happened to be on sale, and oh my god, I love tubing mascara. I'm never going back. Anyway, and after all this, they hear this loud commotion down the hall. And so they go to check it out, and it's actually Mary who's throwing a fit. So Ezra ultimately told Magdalena about what happened. And so this was like a while later and hours after Esther has been attacked, and Magdalena went back to her business, and she ultimately decided to kick Mary out of the house. And so Mary is throwing a tantrum where she's basically like crying, but also like yelling and saying, I hated this place anyway, and you all suck, and blah blah blah, but she's like clearly like upset she's being kicked out. So Mary is a bit of a complicated character. But now, next chapter, it's now nighttime, so August is awake and he was told what happened. And August surprises Esther because he is enraged. His anger surprises her, like floors her basically. She's so surprised about it because he is enraged. In fact, he like briefly attacks Booker for like a second. He just kind of like goes at him with his fangs, but obviously he's a golem made of stone, so like that didn't really do much, but he needed to get his anger out. But yeah, August was so mad. But he ultimately calms down and realizes that, hey, it wasn't Booker's fault and it's okay, and he had that moment of anger, but it's okay now. And so now that all of the gentlemen know what the plan is, Magdalena goes through with the ritual, and her and Booker become tethered together. So technically she can like now exert her will onto him, as if like if they were far apart from each other, she could like concentrate and be like, come here, and then he'd have to listen to the tether. He can like fight back with it, but she doesn't really plan on using the tether unless it's necessary type of thing, and Booker has no problem with this and trusts Esther completely. And after all of this, Aman invites all of them, so not just Esther and all of the other gentlemen, to his house that he has secured in London for dinner together, because he's like, Esther wants to be with all of us, so you're all invited, let's all have dinner at my place. And everybody accepts, of course. But before this happens, her and Aman have some alone time to have some fun together, and Esther is very pleased with Aman's progress in accepting the others. And then there's also another fun scene involving Ezra, Booker, and Dr. Underwood. Kind of similar to what August, Ezra, and Booker did, but yeah. Another scene. Lots of those scenes in this book. But anyway, next chapter, chapter 26, they all go to Aman's mansion, where Esther is just floored on how like insane this mansion is, because it's not just like, oh, that's a really nice house, or like, oh, that's like a McMansion or whatever. Like, no, it is very glamorous, because again, Aman is kind of royalty, so he's got money to spare, and it's a very fancy house. But during this dinner, they kind of have like the official conversation on like, what do you want to do, Esther? Do you want to be with all of us for good? Do you want to stay at Rooksgrave? What's the plan? And she's basically like, I don't want to leave Rooksgrave like immediately. Eventually, yes, but not like right now. But I do want to be with all of you for good. And so they're all cool with this. So it's kind of solidified that like, yep, they are all 6, I guess technically 7 if you include Tanner. They are all like together for good. They're all staying by each other's sides, and they're basically just waiting for whatever Esther wants to do, they'll do it. And right now she wants to stay at Rooksgrave, so they're all cool with that for the time being, because they have no problem continuing to paying the membership fee to be a gentleman of the manor, because Esther isn't ready to leave the manor yet, because she kind of just got there. So yeah, but this is the official talk of like, yep, we're all together and we're staying together. And so the next chapter is like the celebratory chapter, which starts with all of them giving her a massage and then ending with all of them having fun together with her. I cannot say anything else, but you know what I mean. meet. So after their fun, August ultimately leaves to go back to Rooksgrave because Rooksgrave Manor has an appropriate like area in their basement for him to have his day rest that's more secure. So he goes back so he can have his day rest and feel safe there, because it's not just him sleeping, he's like offline kind of basically. But the others take their time, but eventually ultimately decide, yeah, it's time to go back to Rooksgrave. So while they're on the way there, they actually see that the manor has been set on fire. Yep, it's in a blaze. It's up in flames. Sorry, it's hard to talk and do my lips at the same time. But obviously Esther is freaking out because she knows that August is down in the basement in the manor, and so she's freaking out that he has been burned alive. She wants to just run into the flames to go find him, but Tanner forced the shift in Dr. Underwood and kind of restrains her and is like, there's no way in hell I'm gonna let you run into a burning building. Sorry, but I'm not gonna. So Amon, Booker, and Ezra all kind of run in and figure out what's going on, try to just help where they can. Whereas Tanner is kind of left with just restraining Esther because she's trying to fight him and go in there, and he's like, no, I'm not letting you do that. But while Esther is freaking out, she remembers that she is tethered to Booker, and she uses that tether to kind of force him to come back out of the burning building, because obviously she doesn't want him to burn as well. Granted, he is made of stone, so like that really wouldn't happen, but still, she's like, no, get back out here. And so he does, but Ezra is now missing as well in the blaze. Apparently they went down to the depths to try and rescue August, and part of the building collapsed and separated Booker and Ezra is now trapped down there as well. They don't really know his whereabouts because again, he is an invisible man, but he's somewhere down there. So now Esther is freaking out even more, but Amon offers up his house to now all of these displaced people from Rooksgrave Manor, and so everybody goes to his house. And Esther stays at Amon's house and kind of picks up her old maid habits and helps everybody else out who's been injured and needs something. Like, she's there and she is helping out, while all of her other gentlemen go back to the manor to try and find August and to help everybody else out as well. But by dawn, they still haven't found him or Ezra. But Amon has luckily brought in reinforcements, and his sister arrives, who is named Kepri. But regardless of this, Esther plans on going to the manor the next night. No matter what, she's going. Setting spray. So she goes back to the manor with her gentleman, and she sees a lot of the human villagers are circling like vultures around the manor, and they're kind of stealing anything that didn't get burnt. If there was jewelry that survived, they're stealing it. And Mary is there, and it seems that she is with the hat shop owner from that village. But she's acting all uppity and snooty and kind of points her nose upward and walks away and leaves when they arrive. But whatever, now all of those other humans are gone, and everybody else is exploring the tunnels beneath the manor to try and find a way in. And she's not with one of her gentlemen, she's with a different gentleman to one of the other girls, because everybody's kind of split up trying to do their part to find everybody. And while she's with this other guy, she actually hears August calling for her, and so she runs after that voice immediately, no questions asked, and she loses the other gentleman that's with her. He can't keep up, he gets lost. And she successfully follows that voice all the way into a room where August is tied up in the middle of it and bleeding. He has stakes through his hands, and Bersha is there sitting there waiting for her. Now at this point, she has caused enough commotion yelling back for August that her other gentlemen, as in like Tanner, Booker, and Amon, have heard her, but they're trying to find where she went. But now she's in there with August and Bersha, and it turns out Ezra is there as well. He's just invisible, but he is there. But Bersha doesn't know this because Bersha does not have the skill that Amon has to be able to see that invisible boy. But now that they're face to face, they have this whole drawn out, the villain monologue. They have this whole conversation where Bersha kind of intends to use Esther's horniness or nymphomania against her, and he wants to grape her and more or less break her and like destroy her, I guess. I don't know. His motives are kind of weird. And so she plays along to bide some time, and in doing so, Ezra slides a knife into her hand while Bersha doesn't notice and obviously doesn't see Ezra because he's invisible. And she uses that knife to stab him. She does not hesitate. She immediately plunges that knife into him. But unfortunately, he does ultimately get away, but she did successfully save August, so it's still a win. Bersha's still out there, but August is saved. A win is is a win. So now that August is saved, they have like this nice little reunion, but they ultimately need to flee these tunnels because they don't know if another part is going to crumble or if Bersha has any other plans to get them. They have no idea, so they need to flee the tunnels. But right as they're about to exit, they realize it's almost dawn, and obviously August can't go out into the sunlight. But now that they're all like officially together, and I don't know, Amon saw just how distraught Esther was, thinking about the fact that August may or may not have been alive, that he steps forward and is like, I'm just gonna bless you so you can stand in the sun. And because he's an all-powerful Sphinx, he can just do that. And so he blesses August, and now August is a vampire that can walk in the sun. Now why this like never came up in conversation before, I guess I can only think because now it was solidified that they're all together and he wasn't gonna do that for some random vampire. But yeah, apparently Amon could do that the whole time, I guess. But August can now walk in the sun, so they successfully escape and make it back to Amon's house, where they ultimately decide they're actually gonna go to Amon's home in Egypt. They're just gonna leave England altogether, and all of them are heading to Egypt. And this is the chapter also where Esther proclaims her love for all of her gentlemen. She loves them all. So in the last chapter, Esther says her goodbyes to Magdalena as she's packing for Egypt. Magdalena intends to start over, but since Rooksgrave Manor is now in ruins, Amon is just giving her the house that he bought in London. So that house that they're in is now going to be the new manor, and she's renaming it to Star Manor. But yeah, Magdalena is going to keep pushing forward. And that Kepri girl, which was, remember, Amon's sister, is staying with Magdalena to make sure the house is okay and safe. Which I would assume Kepri was only introduced to like allow for future books in Star Manor or something is what I would guess, but I don't know. But then they all say their goodbyes and they go to Egypt. So now in the epilogue, they're in Egypt and they've been in Egypt for a while. Now besides having fun together, what they've primarily been doing in Egypt is trying to find ways to stop Bersha and find any information they can about him. And that's kind of what they all do together, because they want to take down Bersha and not let him continue with his nasty, horrible ways. But then they get a letter in the mail, and it turns out the Company of Fiends, remember that was the monster theater, the Company of Fiends is having issues with Bersha. Bersha is now targeting that theater. And so it's implied that they will help out the Company of Fiends, but this is setting up the next book. Now I haven't read the next book, but I do know the next book is about a character from the Company of Fiends, and I'm sure they are also dealing with whatever trouble Bersha is causing for them. But in this epilogue, August also offers to change Esther into a vampire. Yep, he offers. And she doesn't accept immediately. Like, she does ultimately want that, but like, she doesn't want to right now. But she does want to be with them forever. And so she will one day take him up on that offer. And the whole epilogue and story kind of ends with she wants her gentleman to be in her life forever. So she will do what she has to be with all of them forever. But that is the book. That is A Lady of Rooksgrave Manor. I finished my makeup a little early. I'm getting better at this. I told you I would get better. I am getting better. Now the timing, maybe I could have gone a little bit slower, so those last few chapters I was still doing something, but whatever, it's okay. Now, what are my thoughts on this book now that we went over it? So, I really love the concept of Rooksgrave Manor. Like, Magdalena was a witch and she uses her abilities to pair her ladies up with like the best monster pairings, and I like that idea. I like the diversity of all of the different monsters. I really like that. And I do kind of appreciate the fact that Esther is a nymphomaniac through and through, like from day one. That's like all she's interested in. But regardless of that, I will say its biggest drawback is that the plot is kind of lacking. Like, Rooksgrave Manor was set up so well, but Bersha's motive did not really make a lot of sense to me. Like, why does he care so much about Esther? Why? Why did it bother him so much that Esther liked having a good time with her gentleman? Okay. And then his reasonings when he did have Esther cornered was like, you enjoy it too much, so I'm going to grape you and then destroy you. And again, it's like, but why though? Why do you care about this random human woman? So I will say that part of the plot was kind of lacking. I'll definitely admit that. But I loved the different love interests so much that like, I can kind of overlook it, which is probably not a great thing to admit, but like, I don't know how to explain it, but like books like these, I kind of consider them to be like popcorn reads. in between something that has like really heavy plot, or it's just like a fantasy world where there's just a lot to understand the inner workings of that world, and sometimes it's nice to just have a little popcorn read. And this was one of those, and I really enjoy it. I think my favorite love interest of the different gentlemen is probably either Mr. Tanner or Ezra. I really like both of those. But I've always really liked the concept of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, so of course a character like that, I was like, sign me up! But have you read the book? If you have, what did you think of it? If you haven't, are you going to now that you've seen this video? Who's your favorite character? The favorite love interest? I'd love to know your thoughts about it. I think this makeup look turned out pretty good. I really like that I went for the red theme because, again, the cover, she's wearing red, and in a lot of her dresses, she's wearing a lot of red, and so wanted to kind of mimic that. So here we are. But yeah, that was the book. I have not read the second one about the Company of Fiends, but I should, considering how much I enjoyed this one. But thank you so much for watching. I'm really enjoying this series. I like doing my makeup. I like talking about books. Let's combine the two. It's very fun. And if you enjoyed watching it, please let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Any comment really truly means the world to me. And thank you for being on this journey with me. This is only my third installment of like the whole books and makeup series, but I intend to keep going. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.